My name is Paul Wharton. I'm an Emmy-nominated television host and producer, also an author and entrepreneur. Whenever anyone asks me, where are you from? I say Cleveland. And they say, really, where'd you go to school? I said, well, I actually grew up in Maryland. And they said, well, why didn't you say Maryland? I said, because I don't ever want to deny Cleveland, because people call it the mistake by the lake, and I think Cleveland is absolutely fabulous. My father wanted a better job in his construction company that he was working for. He worked for his father before that, and he found one in Maryland. And in Laurel, that's where I would call the home that I grew up in. It was a lovely Tudor that sat on top of a hill. Home was a safe haven. Being out and going to school was mostly good, but there were the bullies. You know, they thought my walk was a little fierce, and so they start calling me sissy and fag and all these sorts of things. Pretty young, I'd probably say in about the second or third grade. And so to have refuge from that, I would take shelter at home. My mom made a beautiful home for us. She was a great decorator, a great entertainer. And in the wintertime, because we lived on a big hill, the snow would come and we had a huge toboggan. So all the kids would come over and sled down our hill on the toboggan. My dad was also big into all-terrain vehicles. So I had a 3-wheeler and a 4-wheeler. We were the only black family in the neighborhood. So that's why it was very important. Every summer, as soon as we got out of school, our parents would ship us back off to Cleveland, so we had that black experience, honey. I think it actually was organic. I don't know that I could even tell someone else how to do that. I feel like as a child, one thing that I used to always think about whenever you're being marginalized or you know, people are kind of talking down to you or bullying you, you have to create a persona of protection in your head. And so I created one in my head that was, I was a famous person and I was a special person. I don't even know that I thought I was famous, but I thought I was special. I thought I had gifts. I thought I had a knack for pulling my outfits together. I thought that I walked into the room, I could make people smile and laugh, okay? This is even as a kid. I also learned as a child not to be a follower, because whenever I followed someone, it led to disappointment. I remember the first time my mother brought home The Right Stuff in 1988. It was cold outside. I was walking home from school. I was 10 years old. I heard this song jamming from our house. I walked into the house and my mother was breaking it down to the ground, and I got right in there with her, dropped my book bag, and hit the floor. I was bouncing and shaking and rocking, and I have been a fan of Vanessa Williams' music ever since. We met very organically, and our friendship evolved over the years to now at the point where, you know, if she's in London, she stays with me. If I go to visit her at her house up in New York, we travel together, we have wonderful experiences. I am a fan of her music, but I appreciate her as a loving and loyal person. And the friendship means a lot to me. I love me some Whoopi Goldberg. I call her Whoop. Hey, Whoop, Whoop. So Whoopi has been my friend since 2012. I was living in New York City in 2012, and a mutual friend introduced us, and she invited me to her home for Christmas Day. And I thought, wow, there's gonna be a lot of people at her house on Christmas Day. That's odd, you know, big party on Christmas Day. Okay. She opens the door and she's in a one-piece pajamas, you know, with the footies and the whole bit. So cute. And I'm thinking, where are all the cars? There's no cars. There were only 6 of us there for Christmas dinner at her house. Of course, I was all done up because I thought this was gonna be some extravagant party on Christmas Day. And it was even better than that because it was so intimate, and it was family and just a few close friends. And the fact that she has welcomed me into her home and into her life and into her family's life and into her heart, because she tells me, I love you, kid. And that means a lot to me. So she's been a very special woman in my life. London was a place where I didn't really know anyone, but my friend Vanessa Williams was doing a show called City of Angels. The show was supposed to open on March 24th, 2020. And on Christmas of 2019, we were together. And she says, I'm leaving for London in a couple of weeks. Come to the big press opening. It's on March 24th. Bring a date. I said, well, I don't have a date. So I set my Tinder to London and I got a date, let's just say. You know, I'm still Paul Wharton, so I can get a date. So I have this date, but then this pandemic comes. The pandemic comes, the show's canceled, the world shuts down, but I'm still talking to this date, all right? So in about June, I'm sitting here in my place in DC, and I'm a part of the protest for Black Lives Matter, and I'm out there, and I'm just feeling a bit beat down, a bit kind of unsure about what's the next right step forward. And I thought, well, I'm still talking to this date in London. What about making this time of immense fear, a time for me of my next extraordinary adventure? I went to London with no job, with nothing set up, pitched myself to ITV Productions, got a job on the top-rated breakfast show. They call them our morning shows here, they call breakfast shows there. Lorraine, which is the UK's version of Oprah, doing lifestyle makeovers, helping people get unstuck, helping them figure out how to take the next step forward, redoing their homes. I mean, I was the love and life coach on their version of the Kardashians. OK Magazine came to my house to do a full spread. This is something where there was no agent doing that for me. There was no one that rolled out the red carpet for me. I went there knowing no one. I got in the mirror, rolled up my hair, put on a fancy suit, and I walked down the street and made a life for myself. So if I can do it, I feel like any of you can do it as well. And if you ever need to take a break, get some space, try something else out, maybe don't call it a move, but think of it as an expansion. Patti LaBelle was my first love. I have loved Patti LaBelle since she had an album called The Spirit's in It. Spirit, spirit, dun 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 dun, boom, boom. I loved it, and that's the album that had Over the Rainbow, and we had an elevated dining room over the living room, and it kind of resembled a stage. And so I would want my parents or whoever was around to listen to me sing Patti LaBelle. But I knew there were certain things I had to kind of hold back from my father, big, strong, black man, you know, owned a construction company. And I knew that there were certain things that I shouldn't quite reveal too soon, but I couldn't help it. I loved Patti so much, I had to get my wings out and fly. I had to get up there. I had to get up over that rainbow. And I wanted him to see me get over that rainbow. But in doing that, I know I was revealing a part of myself that instinctually I knew to hide, to protect. My father and I speak every day. He's one of my closest friends now. There are elements of my life, particularly me being gay, that he just doesn't really like to talk about. I remember when I first came out to him at 19 years old, he said, well, it's something that will pass, and soon you'll meet a woman and you will have a family. I said, well, actually, I don't think that's gonna happen, Dad. But so I know that that is something that he and I will never really agree on. And the other day we had a really contentious conversation. Although we can be contentious, but it does not linger, we're also very forgiving and we're very understanding of each other. But he was saying to me, you know, although I don't really agree with a lot of your choices as it relates to your personal life. And I said, well, I don't agree with the choices that you've made in your personal life. And he was taken aback a little bit. And then I said, but the difference is you made me, I didn't make you. So how do you feel about that? And it was just one of those moments that sometimes you gotta check a person, even if they're your parents. Sometimes if someone is very close to you, you have to let them know what is acceptable to you, what you're not willing to take on, about their limitations, about their prejudices about you. And even having said that, my dad and I are still as close as we can possibly be, because I have to realize where he's come from and where his father has come from and their lives, and that's made him who he is today. The only thing I can do is live my best, most authentic life live a respectable life for the most part, you know, and march to the beat of my own drummer. And at the very least, my father will respect me for being a man that makes his own choices and that is feeling good about where he is in life and that can take care of himself. And I think that's a good place to be. When I think about what I represent with pride, it would probably be that I make it my business not to go out into the world and ruin someone else's day. I like to enhance situations. I like to problem solve. I am absolutely allergic to people that have a problem for every solution. You tell them something you want to do, and they tell you all the reasons why that will never work. That is the opposite of who I am as a person. And that's what I think my legacy will be.